Now, judgment is reserved in the Information Regulator's urgent application to stop the publication of matric results in newspapers. Earlier, the regulator argued at the Pretoria High Court that the Basic Education Department would infringe on matric's right to privacy if it published results next week. Zola Shalana was in court and joins us now live. Zola, very good afternoon to you. We heard various arguments, even AfriForum saying that this isn't an urgent application, and of course the Information Regulator should be able to take this with costs and it should be struck off the roll. What's the sentiment of others that have been in court this morning?
Well, Katleho from the Department of Basic Education, together with AfriForum, they are speaking in one voice, essentially saying that this is not supposed to be an urgent matter, considering the fact that the applicant was well aware. In fact, this is something that has been happening from the year 2022, and the judge did want to be convinced by the applicant as to why they believe that this matter is urgent. And you would also know that this is just a week before the release of matric results. The judge did mention that she is, in a position, a tight position to say the least. As a result, a judgment will be handed down tomorrow at 11:30. But I am joined by, a representative from the Information Regulator just to tell us about, what came out of court today. So thank you very much for your time. Just briefly summarize, your argument as the Information Regulator, and also why do you think that this matter is urgent?
No, thank you. The question before the court today was whether or not a responsible party such as the Department of Basic Education can simply ignore an order issued by the Information Regulator. You will recall that this case arises from an enforcement notice that was issued by the Information Regulator against the Department of Basic Education, where we had asked the department to give us an undertaking that they will not publish the matric results for 2024 until such time as proper compliance issues around POPIA have been dealt with by the department. We did not get that commitment or that undertaking from the Department of Basic Education, but we did come across media reporting indicating that the department was going to publish the results despite the enforcement notice and the orders that we had made in that enforcement notice. Therefore, this is the question that we had to bring to the court today.
The biggest question that was asked by the judge today was that what harm will the release of these matric results through the traditional platforms, which is print media, do to matriculants?
Well, we do live in the era of POPIA, so some of the traditional practices that we are used to have had to be adjusted to comply and fit within the framework of protection of personal information as provided for in our legislation. So we simply cannot place ourselves in a position where we say, no, the rule of law is not that important because of tradition. So the legislation is quite clear, especially when you're dealing with the rights of children. The protections in POPIA are much more stringent when you're dealing with personal information of children. And so it is very important for us as a regulator to ensure that such harms as we foresee in terms of protection of personal information of children do not happen. And we can really use whatever tools and instruments we have in our power to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Now, currently, matriculants receive, or rather on the newspapers, we see their examination numbers, and the Department of Basic Education argued that those examination numbers are not identifiable, meaning that it's not easy for one to tell where that number actually, or who it belongs to, and you still continue to say that their students' privacy is violated.
Well, I'm afraid that question goes into the merits of a matter that is about to come before this very court, because those issues around whether or not the exam number identifies a student, that's a question that this court will have to look into. So I'll be really cautious and not try and get into that particular question, which will serve before this court.
The judge is handing down judgment tomorrow. What are you anticipating to hear?
Well, we are hoping to hear the confirmation of our powers as the information regulator, that our orders cannot be ignored by responsible parties. That is the main interest that we have as the regulator. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. Let's actually also bring in the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. Elijah, thank you very much for your time. I mean, we've heard arguments from all parties, including the applicant, and you continue to say as the department you will release matric results the traditional way that most people know about, which is print media.
Of course we'll do that, because up until now, as things stand, there's no other court judgment that is there. Well, the Information Regulator talks about organizations having to respect their instructions, but we also have a court to respect whose instructions we also need to adhere to. That's exactly what we are doing here. But of course, tomorrow morning, the judge may rule differently, in which case we'll also comply. But for now, we are still standing by the court judgment of 18 January 2022, which was handed down in this court. So that's where we are.
We also heard about a policy that is going to be introduced where learners are given an option to give consent if they want their results, matric results, to be published. How far is that?
No, we've done that. That's why we are interested in the other matter, the court case which we ourselves as a department filed right here in the Pretoria High Court, taking the Information Regulator to court to say, let's clarify your powers. Let's go to court to clarify your powers, but we also need to understand the responsibilities of the department. We believe that matter is the one that is critical, because all the matters will be ventilated and we'll be able to argue without the rush that we are currently experiencing now. That one, the outcome of it will be very important, because not only the Department of Basic Education, but other government departments as well are going to benefit from that outcome. But the Information Regulator itself will benefit, because their mandate will be clarified in law, which is very important, because now it seems we differ when it comes to interpreting what they're supposed to do.
Thank you very much for your time, Elijah, Basic Education spokesperson. Well, Kat, we will find out from the judgment that will be handed down tomorrow at 11:30 if the judge will actually rule in favor of the Department of Education or the applicant in this matter. But we do know that there's a possibility of the class of 2024 being the first of not being able to see their matric results on newspapers, or there's also another possibility of things unfolding the way they have been for the past few years. As you have heard the department mention so many times, that the admission number or the exam number that's currently being used is not identifiable, meaning that it's completely different from how things were done several years ago, where there would be a name and a surname of a particular student in that newspaper. For now, back to you in studio.